Welcome to our newest episode of The Spin, where I'm joined by Minneapolis-based rapper and producer Student 1 to discuss his forthcoming album, Truant, and the artists and the records that have shaped his journey, from the Ethiopian music that graced his home throughout his childhood, to the local Minnesota artists that helped inject him with the confidence he needed to find his voice as an artist. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. All right, I'm here today with Student 1 for our next episode of The Spin. How you doing, Stu?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And I heard we can start off with this. I heard you're releasing a record in the near future. Do you want to talk to us about where you're at in that process, how everything's going?
Yeah. It's gonna be coming out in about a month now. I'm calling it Truant, and it's pretty much like wrapped up with a bow and ready to go. We're dropping one more music video before the official release, and then the day of the release, we're doing a little release party where you can play the album on Clone Hero if you're familiar with that game.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Yeah, we got the whole album charted, so we're gonna see if we can get people to play it. See who's really shredding, I guess.
Nice. And will that be in Minneapolis?
That'll be in Chicago.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, and do you feel like we don't have to get too deep into the record because I don't know how much is under wraps and how much is not under wraps currently, but
No, we can get into it.
do you we could save some of that for later,
Yeah.
but is there anything you want to like tease to your fans right now about what the record will be like?
Oh yeah. So like the majority of this album I produced, and all of it I mixed and mastered. So if you're familiar with any of the songs that I've released that I've like self-produced myself, I feel like you might find something cool on here. Every song on the album's its own little world. I tried to make it concise. It ended up being like 11 songs, I think, which is not as concise as I wanted it to be, but I mean, I don't know. I'm just happy to have like a new full length thing. I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, today I just want to go through 5 albums that you picked out beforehand, that kind of just trace us through your musical journey. So
Hmm.
we'll have the first album you ever remember hearing or just are conscious of hearing. The first album you bought, which when we get to it, we'll talk about if that was a CD or what it was, right? Most influential album when you started making music, a classic album that's under recognized, and then an album that came out in the last 5 years that you loved. And you chose two for that one. We're going to talk about both a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. We're going to talk about both a little bit. And yeah, like I said, I just want to use that to trace through your musical journey and just talk about your story. So let's start with the first album you ever heard. So you said it was cassettes your mom would play around the house when you were younger, especially like Ethiopian music, right? So
Yeah.
so let's just start, and that's completely okay. You didn't list a specific album because I don't know if I could even answer this question myself
Yeah.
if I was pressed for it with a specific album. But let's just start about like tell me what it was like growing up because you grew up in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
tell
I
me
moved
about
there when I was 3. Yeah.
tell me about what it was like growing up in Minneapolis with your mom. What was your cultural exposure like? What was your musical exposure like?
I feel like at home, it was a lot of like Ethiopian culture, like especially in the musical sector.
Hmm.
She didn't really play a lot of. I mean, she did play like American music, but for the most part, it was either like cassettes she had from like way back in the day, or like some religious like Ethiopian music, and they have a lot of like interesting sounding instruments that I think have molded how I feel about like what's cool in a beat now. Because I didn't know, I still to this day I still don't know very much Amharic, which is like the native language, one of the native languages, and so I didn't really know what they were saying ever. It was just like, oh, okay, this is hard. This sounds hard, and but outside of that, it was really just I didn't really think about music too hard outside of just like the one rapper my friends were talking about, like, in the elementary school times. I feel like I was just listening to KDWB and Ethiopian music.
Hmm.
And then when I started to get into like the beginning of high school is when I started to like get into other rappers. But like the early stuff was just like Ethiopian music, KDWB, 50 Cent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll get into 50 Cent for sure.
Yeah.
But do you, I mean, mind describing if you have a specific memory or even just a general memory of your mom playing one of these cassettes? Like, what were the sights, smells, sounds around the house like?
Uh, it was like it was probably like I can just imagine like a weekend where she's just like cooking and like I'll just like come into the living room to like grab something to drink and then she'll be singing along to the music and I'll just be like, "Mom, stop." And then I'll just go back to my room. But um yeah, like I feel like I just have this like warm feeling that's attached to it. Um Anytime I hear that kind of music, like I kind of just get teleported to like a scenario like that back in the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And so, do you still listen to that type of music every so often?
Very lightly, yeah. But I mean, honestly, like whenever there's like a family gathering, there's a lot of cultural music being played. And I just came back from a grad party in Atlanta that it was for my cousin. And yeah, like anytime there's like something being played on the speakers, it just kind of feels like a little flashback, like a nice nostalgic flashback.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and then so talk to me about what your first exposures to Western music were like. I mean, you talked about it a little bit with 50 Cent, and this can kind of segue us into our next section.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, actually, this is funny. When I was 8, I went to Ethiopia for a month, and it was just for some family shit. And like while I was there, I got introduced to Eminem's music, and I think I was already like a fan of 50 Cent at that point. But like people were just like playing. My family just liked Eminem out there, so they were just like, "Yo, do you want to listen to this really quickly?" And I was just like in their room playing like without me like 50 times, and yeah, like outside of that, it was just yeah, Eminem, 50 Cent, KDWB, like just whatever was playing on the radio. I was like a fan. I was a fan of like pop music and like a I can't tell anyone way because there were just like songs on KDWB. I was just like, all right, I like this, but I just like won't tell my friends. uh, yeah, I feel like those were the first instances of me acquainting myself with music.
Yeah.
I guess Western music.
Yeah. And so that trip to Ethiopia when you were 8, was that your first trip there? Or did you live there before you moved to Minneapolis?
No, that was my first trip there. I was born in Maryland,
Okay.
and then I moved to Minneapolis when I was 3. But yeah, when I was 8, my mom was just like, "We're gonna go for a month." I was just like, "Oh, I've never been there."
Yeah. Yeah. What were your like first, now we're getting outside the music discussion, but I'm curious, what were your first impressions of Ethiopia as an 8-year-old?
It was lit. It was lit, and also like socially turbulent because I didn't really like. I don't know. There was just like a huge barrier, and that was fascinating because there were like people that were really gentle about it, and then there were like kids that were my age that would be like, "Hey, fuck you," and just say like crazy, whatever crazy English shit that they knew. They'd just be like, "All right, I'm gonna see what he thinks."
Yeah. Well, and then so when you come back from Ethiopia, you've now like really heard Eminem, 50 Cent for the first time. Are you a rap fan when you get back, or like how does
Hell yeah,
Okay, tell me about the
absolutely.
development of that, like that portion of your taste.
Okay, so outside of like those two, I feel like another family member that put me on to just like hip hop was my uncle Sam. He would pick me up because him and my aunt. Like they had the coolest house ever. When I was a kid, and they had like a giant plasma TV like in their basement, and I was just like, can I just like set up my PS2 at your crib on the weekends sometime? And they're like, yeah, sure. And anytime we drive over to their house all the way in Burnsville, they uh they would just like play shit in their car like Yin Yang Twins, DMX, 50 Cent, and like they would show like uh Sam would show me like music videos that he thought were tight. And I don't know, he put me onto a lot of like hip hop related stuff. And I feel like growing up, I would just kind of follow his lead. I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is pretty tight." And then he put me onto hella shit. He put me onto Most Def. He also put me onto a bunch of like stand up comics that I fuck with to this day. He put me onto a lot of comedy. Um, yeah, outside of that, I don't think I was really paying attention to music like in any like endeavor type of way
Yeah.
until like high school. Like everything before then was very like chill and just kind of like, oh, this is music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But would you say this is kind of when you became conscious that you enjoyed listening to music as opposed to just your mom in the kitchen?
Yes, for sure. Because I was like finding songs that I liked and like just playing them back over and over again. And in my head, I would just think like, this is weird, right? I should just put the song away. Like it's been like 10 listens. This is like, and I just didn't. I just like would hear that part of my brain and just be like, nah, this is lit. And I
And
think
then,
like, yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I think that's where I was just like, yeah, I think that's just where I started to notice that like I really do like music to the point where I'm just like, am I listening? Do I like music too much? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And then tell me, as best you can, the memory of specifically going to buy the Massacre by 50 Cent. And if you don't remember it super specifically, that's all right. But like, was it a CD? Like, where did you go? Did you get into the album specifically through your uncle? Was it through that time in Ethiopia? Like, just
Okay.
elaborate for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got the Massacre. It was a CD at Target, and I don't think my mom didn't have like uh, she didn't really know like a lot about rap. So like I picked up this album and I showed her the artwork and she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, he makes music." And yeah, she just didn't think anything of it. She was just like, "Oh, okay." And like I got into that just like that's a combination of like my aunt and my uncle were listening to him and my friends at school were listening to him. And I was like, "Oh, he's dropping an album. I'm going to see what's out." And I just remember like playing it at home and my mom walking into my room and being like, this is what I got you?" And I was like, "Yeah, but it's fine. Like me and Sami listened to it." And she was like, Sami and Lily put you onto this?" And I'm just like, "All right, now I don't even know. Am I in trouble?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I was gonna ask was would she have approved of it if she had known?
She like was initially pretty resistant, and then like once she started to like, she was like, "Oh, that's 50 Cent," and like she was just like lightly paying attention to that sector of hip hop with me, and like she knew like I was gonna get into Eminem and stuff like that. Uh, and I would also try and ask her to get me those albums too, but then I'd pick up Encore and bring it to my mom. Nothing alarming on that artwork. It's just, very chill. And then she flips it over and sees like a track name like Ass Like That. She's like, "Put it back. Put it back right now."
Yeah, I can imagine. And so tell me about like yeah, tell me about because your uncle was the one that kind of introduced you to all of this hip hop and all of this stuff within the genre.
Yeah.
Do you think personally appealed to you about the genre, other than just your uncle's influence?
Um, I don't know actually. It was I think it was just that like everyone around me liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just kind of like a there there was just like a big window for me to like, also acquaint myself with that music in a way where like I don't know, I might have guidance around me when it comes to just like, oh, who should I listen to first? Like you all seem so excited about it. Well, like where should I go? Um Yeah, because that was, I mean, outside of like the pop music I was secretly fucking with on KDWB, uh, this is like the first instance of me like jumping into like one style of music and being like, what's going on? And I just thought that was cool.
Yeah. I wanted to ask if the pop music, the secret pop music taste has left your repertoire by this point. Like as in right now.
Like, do I still fuck with pop music?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%. Like, I've fully embraced it at this point. Like, um, I didn't know, like, I don't know. Because initially I just attached like my whole concept of pop music in my head growing up was just like the radio. And then now, like, I don't know, we fast forward to like 5 years ago, even like whenever Charlie XCX dropped Charlie, I was just like, oh shit, dude, like pop is sick. I was like, that's like a horrible stigma I attached to just what ultimately is just another genre. And um, like I'm glad I removed it in my head because like now when I think of like pop music, I'm just like, damn, how do we implement like I don't know. I'm just down to make any kind of music, and pop is definitely like in my wheelhouse, like just based off of my relationship with it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that. I got ahead of myself a little bit. I want to talk about that a little more later when we get into your album from the last 5 years that you're
Mm.
into, because I want to talk about your taste in current music and trends you see in current music and stuff like that. But for the meantime, let's zoom back to 50 Cent, or at least when you buy that first CD, right? Kind of talk me through like the development of your own personal music taste as we get closer to high school and as you start to think about music in a sort of like as an endeavor, instead
Yeah.
of just an interest.
I got my first iPod probably around like it probably was like a few years after I got the massacre. And I remember gravitating towards like melodic shit a lot more like shortly after cuz I was liking I mean I still liked 50 Cent and I still liked Eminem and I still liked hearing like people go off like that. But then I was also fucking with like Akon cuz he was fucking with Eminem and I was just like damn, like I like his music and my mom likes his music. That's kind of cool, right? Like no 50 Cent banter. Like we don't have to. And and when I got my first iPod, I also learned about like LimeWire and FrostWire. So
Hmm.
I just went on like a field day of like just any artist that I thought was like just had melodies that I thought were cool. Even another thing that put me on to like just like help me develop like just like if I had like a heartbeat on music, I think another thing that helped me get that was the Now That's What I Call Music CDs growing up.
Yeah.
Because nobody told me about Lean With It, Rock With It. Nobody told me about, like, I had to find those on a random thing. Uh, but yeah, once I got the iPod, I just, like, put all the stuff I got on CD on there, all the stuff on LimeWire I got on there, and I just ended up with a lot of melodic stuff. I was getting into 808s and Heartbreak a lot. Uh, anything that sounded good in, like, any melodic stuff that sounded good in like a Gears of War montage, I would say, is what I was getting into. Uh, oh, I was fucking with Breaking Benjamin too. That was a left field one. I didn't really like get into rock or anything,
Mm,
but I mean, I was playing hella Halo. I was playing hella Gears. I was marveling at montages. Breaking Benjamin was on the way for me. You know.
yeah.
Uh, some other bands, Billy Talent. I was listening to Billy Talent a lot. Um, and then once I started to get into high school, I started to really focus on like local hip hop
Mm,
because so many people at school were like, "Are you going to the Doomtree show?" or like, "Are you going to the Atmosphere show?" And I'm like, "Who are these people?" Like, it seems like I didn't know anybody at the high school at the time because it was like my first year there, but it was just like, damn, it seems like everybody here is all agreeing on the fact that going to the Atmosphere show would be cool. And I was like, okay, that's something. Who's that?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so it sounds like your kind of experiences with hip hop and your interest in hip hop helped you acclimate to the social scene when you got into high school and when you moved to high school.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you think that kind of drove you a little deeper into it, especially within the local scene itself?
Yeah, yeah, because once I started to like, it helped me acclimate, but I still felt like I was behind. Like, it seemed like the whole school already had a heartbeat on what the local scene was, and I was still trying to figure out what Doomtree meant, you know? And uh, so I was like, I feel like that's another thing that like motivated me to kind of dive deeper. I was just like, oh, I'm behind. I gotta catch up. Like, and yeah, so it was like definitely a breeding ground for just like deepening like the interest and just kind of like crate digging more. And I'm still not even in the phases of like making music myself. I'm just kind of like watching people do it cool.
Hmm. And so tell me about what the local like Minneapolis rap scene is like, because I personally I have no idea. So I'm curious, especially at that time. Like, just tell me about what the atmosphere was like surrounding the art.
There was like a lot of like lore. Like people just had a lot of things to say about the fire of somebody.
Mm,
Like and then I would just have to go figure it out. And like cuz I started to get into Atmosphere around the time where he made an album called When Life Gives You Lemons You Paint That Shit Gold. And he it was like it's very like chill hip hop, but there's like cool stuff going on there. There's a nice message, and he gets sentimental. He has a way with words. But I would like bring that album up to like my friends. They'd be like, "Yo, have you heard the shit that he was doing back in the day?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's just like he was just fired up back in the day. And they would like show me these like old tapes that he did before people knew who he was, and old recordings of him at shows like battle freestyling people, and it's just like a different it was a different Slug was a different person. And like that was just like a cool thing. It was a cool thing for me because I was just like, oh wow, like I was introduced to this artist through this one album, but like the thing that blew my fucking mind was like their history. Like
yeah.
what did they do that got them there? And like anytime I was like acquainted with that with like a local artist, I was just like, damn, everybody's just so cool. That's tight.
Yeah. So kind of everyone in Minneapolis, at least in the rap community at that time, was a sort of local historian, it sounds like, in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and they earned their stripes, and they're all homies. They would like work on shit together and also have like great solo efforts. Um yeah, it was cool. It was cool to see uh like just a community like work like that. I don't know. Just like I've just attached that to hip hop. I'm just like, damn, okay. Like on on some real shit, like every local scene could just be like just a bunch of people that make music, and like we all know each other and we can all get together, and like I just thought that was tight.
Hmm. And so tell me, like, at what point did you personally decide that you would even want to try to rap? Because that's not something that had really entered your mind at this point that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Never entered my mind seriously. I think it was around 10th grade. Like I was oh, this was even before I got caught. Okay. Before I got caught smoking weed. All right. So around 10th grade, I was just like writing shit down. Uh I was just writing stuff down, like just seeing like if I could write a cool anything, a
Hmm.
cool verse, a cool 4 bar, or whatever. Just because like I'm starting to get into like local stuff now. I'm starting to hear what it's like when penmanship is less like focused on you know just like being accessible and like I'm watching penmanship be like focused in different ways, and I feel like that's another big thing that like lured me in, like just hearing people rap in different ways, and like you can just kind of find the gold nuggets in each verse, and it's like damn, everybody's doing cool shit. I guess there's like infinite ways to do it. uh um Shit, I forgot what I was. I forgot where I was going. What was the question again?
When did the idea of you personally rapping enter your mind, or when did that happen? I guess.
Got it. Um, yeah, 10th grade is when I started like writing stuff down, just like jokingly, because like I'm at that stage in music where I'm like starting to hear people write cool stuff, and I want to try it too. And yeah, so it was probably around there. But everything I wrote then was obviously like horrible and embarrassing. Um, but it was cool. It felt like it just felt like an exercise that even though it like the outcome was embarrassing, I had fun making it.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's something. And also nobody in my like family has a musical background whatsoever. So I was this is like a very like dark ops thing. Like I didn't tell anybody in the family that I would ever. Um but yeah, it was probably around 10th grade. I was uh I was writing stuff then, and then I moved schools. I moved out into the suburbs when I don't know. I guess I just got my mom caught me smoking weed and stuff like that, and I was in a different environment where I didn't really know anybody. So just like those little thoughts of like, oh, let me write a verse down and see what happens. They felt way less embarrassing,
Hmm.
and I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like this verse still sucks, but it's less embarrassing, so I'll just keep doing it. It's like I don't know. Um, so I think around like 10th, 11th grade is when I started to think about it more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so when you moved out to the suburbs, was the local hip hop scene like as ubiquitous as it was when you were at your old high school?
No, because I was like outside of the Twin Cities, and
Hmm.
like the Twin Cities is really where it was like where it was really going on. I went all the way over to Inver Grove Heights, which is like kind of on the border of like the west side of St. Paul. It's kind of like out the way. Like there wasn't really a budding scene over there.
Yeah.
Um, so it was yeah, it was just kind of like a quiet place where I felt like I could develop develop my skills if this is the route I am choosing to go down. But I don't even know if I was thinking about it as like a career at that point even. I think it was just like fun, and I thought art was cool. So I was just like that's cool that it feels that it hurts less to try and do something.
Yeah. Well, before we get too far outside of this section, I never even said the album we were going to talk about for this section. It's Firstborn by Idea is the most
Mm.
influential album on you when you started making music. And so did he kind of enter your consciousness, your mind with all the other local rappers at when you kind of first found out about them?
Yeah, yeah. Him and kind of like a I feel like he was the one that took precedent. Uh like he was kind of at the foreground with regards to everyone else I was paying attention to because he was just making weird music, but it like I don't know, it like made but it made sense to me. And then like outside of the music, he was also very good at like freestyling, which I thought was fascinating. And I I think like the very first instance of like freestyling that I ever witnessed was like 8 Mile, and that was a movie. So
Hmm.
I was just like, okay, do people do that in real life, or is thinking off the top of your head that fast just like showbiz? uh, and I think Idea was one of the first artists to like shatter that reality in my mind that like no, it's not show, like you can actually build this skill and you can like think on the fly, you can like freestyle a rap, you could even like turn it into daggers in like a battle rap. like uh and he was like the first example that I noticed that he could do that and he could do it well. So I was just like that's fucking crazy. I need to learn how to do that kinda at least. I don't know if I'm gonna ever get that good, but um, yeah, I think just like the showcasing of like good music and then a showcasing of like in real time uh, prowess that you can like demonstrate. I feel like that combo really got me
Hmm.
into his music.
And he's a very introspective lyricist as well, which I'm sure is part of what appealed to you. Did your relationship with him or with any of those local rappers grow stronger in any way when you started trying to write your own rhymes?
Yeah, yeah. There's like a I can't put my finger on it with words. I don't know. It's just like it's just more than just putting words on a paper. And
Hmm.
like sometimes you don't have like sometimes you don't have like the access to the rooms in your mind that you're trying to get this information from. And like it's it's you know, they like you just end up hearing some people like when if they can really get in there, they end up talking about something that like you hear it and you're just like, oh, I was just like that. Yeah, that's how I feel. I don't know. Like that's how I feel, but I've never been able to articulate. Wow, like I don't know. It's just this weird moment, and uh, I feel like that moment was easier to like congratulate them for producing once I started writing.
Hmm. And so what was that process like of developing that skill in yourself? Like what was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome as a songwriter? What was your first triumph as a songwriter? Like when did you know you had done something? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I feel like like when I first started writing stuff, it was very I don't know, I was just very not thinking about anything except for let's just make sure all of these lines have a word at the end that rhymes with the word in the next line. Like I feel like it was all structure based, and so if I could just make something, I was happy. And that's like super early stage. That's like me writing the first thing I ever wrote in 10th grade. But like once I like moved to Simley or to Inver Grove and I had a little more privacy, I could like write a couple more raps without feeling embarrassed. I started to think more about like choice of words and how I want to carry myself and uh, things like that. I think the first thing that I was really ever proud of making was like I just had this like whole notebook of just like raps. Every page was just like a continuation of something from the page before it. And it was just to like strengthen my writing abilities. And anytime somebody was like sometimes like people would like beatbox in the hallways of Simley or like the high school that I went to at that time, and a couple people would like rap. I would rap and like I don't know, like I would just rap an excerpt from that notebook, and if people liked it, I was like, oh, nice, okay, that didn't sound like shit. All right, cool. Uh, and like I would see that guy in the hallway all the time, so I would just like freestyle for a little bit or just like rap something from the notebook, and if it went well, I would take note of that. And those were my first little personal dubs, like when it came to like writing or just feeling like I was getting better at writing.
Yeah. And so when did the name Student One or the persona or however you want to label it, when did that come about? Like what was the inspiration for that?
When I decided that I was gonna make it a career,
Hmm.
because my mom was, I mean, she was very traditionally thinking about like my trajectory, like throughout school, just being like I get a degree and get a job, but like I was just not feeling good in college. Like it didn't feel good to be in there. Um, and I was just like, I have to be honest with her about it. Like I don't want this to turn into like something that it doesn't have to be. And I feel like my way of letting her know that I was serious was by presenting it to her in a way where like you don't have to think of me of like you don't have to think that I'm like trying to just escape studying. Like I'm going to school to like learn a craft. Like I'm just learning a different craft. They don't have that at this school. And I promise to be a student until I graduate and make money off of this or something. And it's not it's not me running away to like fuck off.
Hmm.
Like I'm doing what I would be doing in school, but just here. And it was a hard sell, but
You went
she's
for it?
yeah, I went for it, and I feel like we have a stronger relationship because of it.
Hmm. And so tell me, this will kind of be our last question for this section, and I want to move on to the classic album and the album with it from within the last 5 years. But tell me about over all this time since you kind of wrote your first songs and came up with the name for Student One, and now that we're approaching your fifth record, if we count the instrumentals, or is it your
Mhm.
yeah, 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 your fifth record? How do you feel, or what do you think is like the single most way you've grown as an artist or as a songwriter over all these years?
I think as a songwriter, I feel like I've uh, I found a place to like talk about like things that are really personal to me without putting myself on Front Street, which is I feel like it's great because like I want music to be I want it to be something that I can like bring any feeling to. And like it's kind of my place of like self deliberation.
Hmm.
And uh I think what makes that tricky is that like I want to share my music with people. So like I think it's cool that I like found this place where I can like talk about serious things in my life, but it doesn't feel like I'm giving too much away. I feel like that's the dance that um, I I feel like that's the dance that I've been recently doing uh, in terms of just like songwriting. But outside of that, I think I'm very focused on just learning how to expand just from where I have been. I feel like I've been doing all right. So sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel like I've been doing all right in that regard, and I I feel like yeah, I feel like those are the I feel like those are the two. Those are the probably two main ways that I feel like I've grown a lot as an artist because those well, like the songwriting stuff is like it's been difficult to like find accessibility while also trying to like build a character, I guess, and
Hmm.
like um both matter to me because they just do. And like just the learning how to expand stuff is just like I'm glad I've like preserved this feeling of still yearning to like learn how to make other kinds of music that I haven't. Like that's always going to be there for me because there's so much fucking music. uh but yeah. Yeah, I think I answered that poorly, but
No, I think it was a good answer, and it gives us like a. I was trying to figure out how we were going to segue in the to the next section, to be honest, and it gives me a solid segue. So you mentioned like the challenge or what you feel like you succeeded at is balancing accessibility with like trying to build a character and like a recognizable aspect to your music, right? So G and K by Kimba, formerly known as YC the Cynic, right? Do you feel like that's something that album succeeds at in any way, or just if not, give me the case for why you think this is an underappreciated classic album?
it's it has like because like I was listening like up until that point where I first listened to that album, I
Hmm.
was already listening to like music similar to it, and some of those records are like instantly accessible for like a set of reasons, and then a couple of those records are not so accessible for their own set of reasons, but like in the end they both complete the same goal. And I feel like the only difference there is like how much time it takes the listener to understand that. And like I guess the goal in this regard would to just be like a good writer and to like have like focused songs on specific things regarding like the culture and society and stuff like that. I guess those are the kind of rappers that I was listening to. And like when I heard this album, it was just like there was no confusion barrier between like the music and the listener. It felt like everything was like being processed in real time, and it just felt very fast. Uh, but he was also being creative. He wasn't being like formulaic or anything,
Hmm.
and it was just a very bright album. It was like it's like the one of the brightest versions of that kind of style like that I had encountered, and I was really excited about it because like it just seemed like all the bases were covered. Like the beats were good, the rapping was good, what he was talking about was awesome, how he was saying it was awesome. I was just stoked about everything about it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Sorry,
Well,
let me just put this on silent mode really quickly. I
no,
don't
you're
want it to
good.
ring again.
You're good. You're good. I'll say the question while you're doing that. So to kind of move on to your albums from within the last 5 years, we have Ganger by V's, and then we
Yeah.
have Weight of the World by Mike. I mean, I have kind of individual questions about the two albums, but just start by telling me like these are two, apart from like the actual genre label, two very different albums, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about what you love about them, and in general what you're enjoying currently and loving currently about hip hop today and where it's going.
For sure. Okay, I'll start with Ganger. I think like there's a couple things about V's that like stick out to me personally, but he also just like beyond that has like a bunch of just his stats are cool. But he's one of those rappers that could rap about anything. Like the song doesn't need to be a focused piece about something for it to be super fucking entertaining.
Hmm.
And I relate to that a lot because I feel like my whole songwriting process it doesn't really like start out as like something very concrete. Like I'm in a gray area following a feeling, and then like later on I zoom out and I'm like, oh, I guess that's what I was talking about. And um, so a lot of the times, like when I zoom out, there's not really much to sum up. Like sometimes I'm just talking about a bunch of things, and I used to think that that was like a bad thing, but then people like V's will just like prove me wrong, and like I feel like I gravitated towards him really quickly because of that. Because yeah, he keeps my attention, and he's also very funny, and he's also very fucking mean, and I think that like he's like notably mean. Like he's just said notably mean things, and they're all like there. There's so much room in hip hop for that kind of energy, especially like as like just when you think of like rapper culture and how competitive it is. It's just like, yeah, be mean. You're so good at being mean. Be mean, and like he does it in a cool way. Also, like this, I mean, yeah, yeah, and I don't know if you've listened to the album, but like there's just like a lot of like there's there's a very like colorful like he's just very colorful and bouncing off the walls. His flow is very like energetic, and sometimes it's like hard to hear what he's saying. I like that too.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of that too. I don't know why that would ever be a problem, especially like that's a character. He's a character. He's like a shadowy figure. He's gonna get you. Like I don't know. Um, yeah, it's just I feel like it's cool that he did it so well.
And he's vibrant. I feel like is the word I would use to describe
Yeah,
him. And then talk me through because you mentioned specifically that Weight of the World is an album that's ridiculously important to you, and for like just how you view things and how you view your art. So talk me through again, same broad question, but why you enjoy that album so much, like what it means to you.
it I was going through like a weird period in my life where I guess I would just describe it as like a creative funk,
Hmm.
and yeah, I just didn't really know. I was just kind of wayward creatively, and then I heard Weight of the World, and I was listening to it, and it was just like I don't know. It just reminded me of like parts of hip hop that I loved the most, and also just having like the music has a big heart. Like Mike has a big heart, but like he puts so much of it in his music that the music has a big heart.
Hmm.
And like I don't know how to explain that in a not weird way, but I would just get high and like listen to that album before work and after work, and I would just be in the parking lot just like just running lines back, cuz like Mike has this like he has this like Playboy Cardi affect where you'll like hear one line and it sounds like he's saying two, maybe even three different things, like just depending on like the angle that like you I don't know. And I would have that feeling about so many of the things that he said on that album. And he was also talking about his mom on that album, and like grief and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I just thought those moments were really powerful in like a way that I like didn't understand until later. Because like I got acquainted with that album, and then I got like a few years after that, my dad passed away, and at that point, that album already like meant a lot to me,
Hmm.
and like for just several reasons, and like I mean I was still listening to that album. I still listen to that album today, and I just feel like it it reminds me of like a perspective I should have in the midst of like bad shit. I don't know. It reminds me of just like when shit's really bad, shit's gonna be okay. I guess is the quickest way to like. It's a bad way to say it, but like um yeah, I think that album just I had a lot of options in like in my personal life to like act irresponsibly about hardships or like loss or like things like that. And then there's things like the Mike album that pull me away from that in a significant way.
Hmm.
And sometimes I can't articulate why, but I just know that that's important, and it's good to have things like that in your life that can do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're kind of getting on to the last thing I want to talk about here, but was this in the gap between Off the Dust and then you have the instrumentals and then you have the new project you're coming out with? Is this kind of that like creative route you're talking about? Am I mapping that right?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like what jump started the like funk was like the album had been done for like a couple, like I think a year or two. Uh, it had been done for like a year or two before we released it, and then yeah, so like from whenever we finished the album to like yeah now, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think was so the album was done just so I have this clear. The album was done a while ago and now it's coming out, or are you talking about Off the Dust?
I was talking about Off the Dust. Yeah, 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 like
Okay, okay, that makes
yeah.
sense. That
My
makes
bad.
sense. No, you're good. And so kind of that rut like or I guess the question is how did that Mike album or did that Mike album change the way you approach your art in any way? Did it jumpstart you to start working on Truant, your new project?
I think so. Yeah, I think creatively it helped me like like because that album is like he got off a lot of things that sound like that were like he sounded like he was coming from like a very deeply personal place, um, and like that's where this art is like produced,
Mm,
and but it didn't sound like he didn't sound too vulnerable. I think that's fascinating. It's just like when you talk about like the loss of like family members, even it's just like that. There's an opportunity to like overshare, or like he found a way to like it just sounded like I don't know. It just sounded like he extracted all the important parts from those tough times, uh, in like in a clean way. And I was like, oh shit, that's really cool because I'm feeling a lot of things right now that I don't want to tell people about, and but I feel like there are nuggets of truth within those feelings that I would like to tell people about, and I feel like I after I listened to Way to the World I was like, okay, well he pulled it off, so it's possible, and I feel like I just have to take my time to learn how to do that, like the way that I learned how to work up the courage to rap, I guess.
Thank you again for tapping into this episode of The Spin. If you enjoyed this episode and this conversation, please check out our website at melt-fm.com to see some of our interviews with rising artists from across the globe and some of the additional content we'll be pushing out over the coming months. Thank you.